See, man. I mean, that starts with me, man. It's my responsibility to better make sure that we're ready to play. We're ready to play on both sides of the ball, man. To get us out of this funk, man, we got to lock in. That starts with me, man, and I'll take ownership of everything that's going on because I've been here. I know the standards that we set here in Oklahoma City. And, I have to set them and set examples. So, it starts with me, and we're going to turn this thing around.
Shannon, what's wrong with the Thunder?
Well, they're still trying to figure it out. And I think we got blinded by the fact that KD went to Golden State and everything just seemed to flow seamlessly. But, Skip, these guys are used to playing without the ball. They're a ball movement team, and they don't need the ball to be successful because they can move without the ball. Russ has always been ball dominant. 15 years, Carmelo Anthony has always been the best player on his team. He's always had the ball. The last 4 or 5 years in Indiana, Paul George was the best player. He had the ball. Now they're trying to figure out how do we become effective without the ball. You remember early on, Skip, they were all averaging about 20 points a game, all taking about 17 shots a game. Now you see that little uptick. Russ is at 19, Paul George is at 17, Carmelo is at 16. What they're going to have to come to grips with is this is Russell's team. Russell, you lead, and we'll find a way to figure it out, to fit in and do what we do. Because that's the only way it's going to be. Skip, you can't come down, okay, Russell, you shoot 2. Next time down, okay, next 3 times down, Paul George, it's your turn. The next 4 times down, Carmelo, so this thing balances out. It's not going to work like that, Skip. So right now they're still figuring it out. And because they haven't figured it out, we're glossing over the fact. Steven Adams has been terrible. There's no way you earn 25. He got a 4-year, $100 million deal, Skip. There's no way at 7 foot tall, a 6'3" point guard should be leading your team in rebounding. That's unacceptable. But what Sam Presti is going to have to do, he got some tough decisions come to make, Skip, come trade deadline.
He does.
Now, if you're a 500 ball club hovering around 500, maybe slightly below, what you going to do with Paul George? He can walk. Carmelo isn't an option here next year. What you going to do? So they got some tough decisions to make. Skip, I believe they'll figure it out because they're such a talented ball club, but they need to realize, hey, Russ, do what you do. Russ might have to take the ball 21, 22 times. Carmelo, Paul George, you figure it out. But I'll tell you what you need to do. Paul George is one of the premier wing defenders. Aaron Gordon can't go get 40 and 15. That can't happen.
Nope.
And you can't allow yourself to get down because the same thing was happening with Cleveland, Skip. They let these teams hang around and make some shots early, and here we are in the third and the fourth quarter, and they're like, hold up. Look who they got. Oh, we up by 3 or 4, and they beat your tail. When you play these teams, you better go ahead and dispense of them early so they'll lose confidence and go away. Because think about it. Look at Miami had that great comeback, well, somewhat of a comeback. Didn't get blown out the next night, Skip. They gave up, 115 points to 86, lost by 30. I believe they'll figure it out. They're too talented. But this is different than Golden State because all these guys are ball dominant, and they're trying to figure out a way to play without having the ball.
Yep. I'm not sure they're going to figure this out before the trade deadline, and you're right. Then some hard, tough decisions are going to have to get made. So if I just glance at the numbers that you just threw out, if I say through 20 games, if you didn't know the record and I told you that Russ was averaging 22, Paul 21, Melo 20 points, you'd say, okay, that's pretty good. And shots taken, Russ 19 a game to 17 and 17 for Melo and Paul. You'd say, okay, that sounds pretty good. If I told you this team was 3rd in the NBA in defensive efficiency, you'd say, that's really good, right? 8 and 12 is not really good.
No, not even close to being good.
And if I had told you this team at home just a few nights back would dominate the Golden State Warriors, you'd say, okay. But what happened that night to me, and I watched it, they won that game on raw revenge emotion.
Correct.
The crowd was crazed to get even finally with Kevin Durant as he returned once again to Oklahoma City because they lost, all 4 games last year?
By the average of 20 points.
Yeah. And this was 108-91 home team. Thunder finally got even with Kevin Durant, and I watched Russell's interview after the game, and he said, yes, this will be a turning point. We are heading north. And they went straight south because they proceeded to lose to Detroit and at Dallas and then really hit bottom at Orlando.
And they lost at home to Detroit.
They lost at home to Detroit. And they have now blown 7 double-digit leads already. And we're only 20 games into the year. And at San Antonio, they were up 23 sort of midway through the second quarter, and they blew that one and lost by 3. So what's going on here? I'm with you, except I'm going to give Paul George a pass. He's not as ball dominant.
No.
He will share.
Right.
He's a good passer, and he can be the complementary superstar by nature. Melo cannot be complimentary. So we have 2 solo acts. We got Russ and we got Melo, and never the twain shall meet, because it's either your turn or my turn, instead of something like what you brought up about Kevin. The more I look back at Kevin Durant going to Golden State, the more I'm impressed with how they did that.
Yeah.
They just assimilated him right into the culture, and Steph Curry said, you do this.
Yeah.
You're okay.
But the thing is, Skip, although Paul George is not as ball dominant, but he was the best player.
He was.
So the majority of the time, he had the ball. Now, all of a sudden, he's not having the ball. He's looking for someone to facilitate for him.
Yeah.
And Carmelo has, from Denver, and I was in Denver when Melo got there, Denver to Knicks, and to now, for 15 years, he's had the ball. But now he's with Russ. Russ is the best player. Carmelo has never been on a team where he wasn't the best.
That is correct.
And Paul George, the last 3 or 4 years in Indiana, Danny Granger knees, David West left, Hibbert. Well, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. What happened to Roy Hibbert?
I don't know.
But Paul George was the best player. And everything ran through him. Now you go to a situation, Skip, you're not the best player. Russ is the best player. And he's going to have the ball because Russ needs the ball to be effective.
So I liked the team better last year when he just said, get out of my way, right?
Yeah, bleep it.
Yeah.
Y'all rebound,
and guess
box
what?
out.
Last night in the fourth quarter when they were down by 20, he said, bleep it.
Yep.
And Russell Westbrook went berserk.
Yes.
He went into one of those refuse to lose modes where he just said, get out of my way, I'm shooting threes. And he made 5 threes in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
And guess what? They lost the quarter 34-28 because Aaron Gordon is just scoring at will on the other end.
They gave up 62 points in the second half, Skip.
Wow.
You're not, and you just said they're third in deficient.
They were going in. That was a disaster.
Yes. And the thing is, though, Skip, is that the problem that you have when Russell does that, guess what Paul George and Melo do? They're standing around. So now they're completely out of a rhythm. So if you ever want to try to do something to get them back in a rhythm, it's over. Because Russ has it going.
Yep.
And then when they double him, trap him to make him give the ball up, Paul George and Carmelo are not in any type of rhythm.
Yep.
So guess what? Clank, clank.
It's clank. So there's one glaring difference in stats from 1 year ago to now. Russell Westbrook averaged 32 points a game last year.
Yeah.
He is now averaging 22 points a game.
That's 10 points.
So he has sacrificed. In his mind, I'm sure he's saying, I'm deferring. I'm trying to get them involved, and it ain't working.
And he's still almost averaging a triple-double, Skip.
No, he is. He's close.
I mean,
22, 9, and 10.
Yeah. So there's a chance he might average a triple-double again. He won't have the point total, but the hard decision that they're going to have to make, Skip, because nobody thought at this point they would be where they are. That come trade deadline, what are you going to do with Paul George? Because now you're not going to get equal value for him, but you robbed Indiana to get him to begin with. So whatever you get in return, you have to deal with.
Somewhere today, Kevin Durant is chuckling over this because he did. He lost the cliched battle, but he's winning the war because he lost the battle in Oklahoma City, lost that game.
Yes.
But in the big picture, he's saying, I'm good.
But you know what, Skip? I'm listening to KD talk. I wouldn't be surprised if he finished his career in Oklahoma City.
He might. No, he misses it.
He does.
For a fact.
He does.
Yeah.
But
he doesn't miss Russ.
Yeah, he does. He doesn't miss, like, can I get the ball over here? You do know I'm the MVP, right?
It's not that easy to put together a super team.
No.
Is the NFL and its players finally on the same page? We'll discuss that next.